Awesome. I'm going to start as per usual with just a little bit of housekeeping. For those of you who don't know, my name is Brandon. I'm our Senior Director of Strategy here at Roomvo. And I want to thank you guys for taking some time out of your Thursday for the next installment of our Roomvo University webinar. We're always really, really excited about these, and I'm particularly excited about today's guest. Before we do that, we like to always show you guys some quick updates about what's going on in the Roomvo verse. And today's update I am super excited to share because this is a feature that has been requested quite literally since I joined the company, I want to say now 4 years ago. I'm going to open up a visualizer here. And at first, this is going to look like the visualizer that you all have on your website and the visualizer you've seen before. But what's particularly exciting about a recent update is this new compare feature at the very top. Now, this is now live across every single visualizer. So you all have this on your website today. When you click on it, you're going to see that a line pops up in the middle of your screen, a slider that you guys can move. And at the bottom, there are some filters for left and right. What you're going to be able to do is choose one side of your room, both the walls and the floors, and apply different products to each side. This means that finally, for your customers who are debating between two products, whether it's on the floor or the wall, maybe they want to see the same floor with two different paint colors, whatever it might be, you're now going to be able to put both products in the room, slide it on each side. And this, by the way, is going to work even on rooms that you upload. So this isn't just preset rooms. This can be the customer's actual house. You're going to be able to upload their room, put those products that they're debating between on both sides of the walls and on the floors, and seamlessly show them what those products look like side by side. So like I said, that's live now. That's on all of your visualizers. And I guess I want to give a special shout out to you guys because frankly, this is a feature that since the day one, like I said, you guys have been requesting, and so our product team prioritized it. And yeah, I just wanted to shout you guys out for constantly giving us feedback and making sure that we're making this better.
That's very cool. I love that feature. And just a little shameless plug for Roomvo. If you guys don't have Roomvo yet, you need to get Roomvo. It's very affordable. What's the price on getting Roomvo again, Brandon? What's the monthly fee?
It starts at free depending on your integration, but you can get started today at no charge. That is absolutely can't get better than that, right?
Yes. So just do it.
Thank you. On that note, I know nobody here came to listen to me speak, so I want to get into the intros and I want to get right into this webinar. I'm going to start with our fearless co-host, Jim Armstrong. Jim's an internationally known trainer and coach for flooring dealers and the founder and president of Flooring Success Systems, a marketing services and coaching program for dealers. Since 2007, thousands of dealers across the US and Canada have relied on Jim's methods to get more customers, get higher margins, gain an unfair advantage over box stores to live the lifestyle they deserve. And of course, our special guest today is Bryan Park. Bryan grew up in South Denver. As an adult, Bryan noticed that the flooring industry in Denver was highly inefficient and unscrupulous. I think I said that right, and if I didn't, I'm sorry. It was near impossible to find providers who worked with a true sense of honesty and fairness. Changing this was not only an opportunity for Bryan, but it was practically a calling. Today, he's the CEO of Footprints Floors, one of the largest hardwood providers in Colorado, with an additional 80 franchises and maybe a little over 80 franchises that operate across more than 160 territories. So for those of us on the call that haven't met you before, Bryan, who is Bryan Park and how did you end up in the flooring industry?
Thanks for having me on here. Love to talk about flooring, love to plug not only Footprints, but just the flooring industry overall. And I realize that everybody on here is in the flooring industry already, so you're not going to hear much that you don't already know as far as plugging how awesome the flooring industry is. But I love what I do. I love my job. I do happen to operate on the other side of the coin from most of you. I'm a contractor. We don't as a company, we don't really sell product. So we're the installers, and we've purposely chosen to go that way. So it's a little different. But yeah, to what Brandon was saying, we're 160 markets across the country, 41 states, 13 or 1400 people installing floors every day. That's what we're doing. So it's mostly almost 100% residential remodels. So we're just in people's houses day in, day out, putting in floors. We don't do carpet, so we only do hard surface. So we're talking hardwood, tile, laminate, LVP. We don't do concrete, I guess, either. So yeah, pretty much what you guys sell, that's what we do. And we're not really a competitor of yours because we don't sell product. We just install product. We encourage our customers to buy products from local showrooms. That's our favorite. So we create relationships nationally with local showrooms, send customers to the showroom to buy the product, and then we are the installer that goes in and puts it in, and that's where we make our money.
You have a very cool backstory. I know you didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, you were in the US Air Force. Is that right?
Leave it to a Canadian to say US Air Force. Come
okay,
on.
there you go.
The Air Force, those of us.
You were in the Air Force. How do you wind up in the flooring industry?
Yeah. No, I grew up in South Denver, and then I went to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs, which is like an hour south of where I grew up. Went there and then served out my time. When you graduate from the academy, you owe so many years of service when you leave there. So I served out my time in beautiful Omaha, Nebraska, off at Air Force Base, and then was planning on being a pilot. Plans changed. God had different plans for me. Got married. Didn't want to be in the military for 20 years, so I got out. Because I wasn't going to be a pilot, I had a history degree that doesn't lead to very much. So I was trying to figure out what to do in life. Got into retail in my early 20s, thinking that might be something, but got married and just had to feed my family. I've shared this story a number of times on these kind of webinars over the years, but really what got me into flooring, I have a very white collar background. My parents were very white collar, like we're none of them, very middle class. My mom's a teacher. My dad sold medical equipment. But I was looking for a job. The plan was to go back to school full time, become an engineer, and I was looking for a job. And my wife and I had gone out to dinner one night, and we had 3 puppies at the same time because we're insane. And my wife loves puppies, and I love my wife, so we had 3 puppies. They ate our carpet. They tore it up. They shredded it. It was destroyed. So we hired a flooring company to come in and install hardwood floors. And I was watching the guy put it in and was just asking him questions, watching him do it. How much money you make doing this? He's like, I don't know, 100 grand. I'm like, holy cow, it sounds like a fortune. And I can go to school at night and install floors by day. And he's like, yep. So I called up that company and became a install, sand, and finish guy for those guys, going on 18 or 19 years ago. Installed floors. So I did it all. I got pretty good at it. So I'm not just a pretty face. I know what I'm doing when it comes to flooring. But what really happened when I was working for those guys is I realized that the flooring industry, especially on the installer side, it's severely lacking in technology, in integrity, in understanding, and customer service. The bar is so low. And I've been talking about this for like 20 years that, my joke, and it's kind of a joke, but not really, is if I show up and I call people back and I do what I say I'm going to do, I'm already ahead of 99% of my competition. And that's just doing what you said you were going to do. That seems like a very low bar to me. And that's exactly what we do. And that's what we put into place at Footprints Floors. And that's what's allowed us, we're the largest installation company in Denver by a lot. We run about 50 crews a day in just Denver alone. And now we've gone across the country in the last 4 years and have moved into markets all over. And it's really just based on that one principle of integrity. Do what you say you're going to do. That's it. Honor your contract, show up, call people back. That's amazing.
I have no interest in being a remodeler, or I used to be in the construction business right out of high school, and it's not something I really want to go back to. But I've often said that I could absolutely rule a town by returning phone calls and showing up when I said I would show up. Those 2 things. it's shocking how lacking that is, and especially in the trades, and around, yeah. So I'm with you, and that's one lesson everybody can take away is the blocking and tackling. If you want to grow your business, make sure you're doing just doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, just like Bryan said. So, well, Bryan, I'm super glad to have you on here because, my friend Scott Humphrey, the CEO of World Floor Covering Association, says that, he said repeatedly that, that solving the shortage of installers, it's not a silver bullet to this thing. It takes the whole industry working together and hitting it from different angles. And so that's why I was really glad to have you come on the Roomvo University, because it's yet another way that dealers can solve the installer shortage, at least in their own business. So at a high level, can you explain what Footprints Floors does and what makes it so unique?
And I mentioned part of why we're unique. We don't sell products, and we're an installation company. We're really focused on the rules of install. We follow the rules. We're certified, NWFA, NTCA. We're constantly mentoring. We have chats and monthly webinars, and we bring in experts, and we have national conventions, and everything is focused towards installation knowledge, not necessarily product knowledge or design. We're contractors. We actually tell customers, don't trust us with colors because we don't know anything. What really it comes down to is we are the middleman between customers and crews. And I've said it a million times over the years, crews, your average crew, they just don't speak suburban housewife. Like there's just a cultural difference. And, suburban housewife isn't always the most, grace-filled and merciful when it comes to managing contractors. There's a certain level of just mercy and just patience that has to come along with it. And so here we are in the middle as managers supervising this relationship to make sure it goes well. And I realize a lot of showrooms, a lot of retailers will have kind of field managers. And so some of this might make sense. There's something about having the business owner, the franchisee, who makes the lion's share of the money, who is the face of the business that's interacting with both the customer and the crew. And it's not just an employee, oftentimes maybe the lowest paid employee, who's trying to play that middleman role. Like this is their business, is to be the chaperone between customer and crew and just be the translator, the cultural translator, sometimes the language translator, to get just everybody get along. And so we're really making sure the crew shows up on time. He's doing what he says he's going to do. And the way we do this is we visit our job sites every day. We require our franchisees to be present just for a half hour, 20 minutes every day, and then call the customer and check in at the end of each day as well. So there's just a constant ball touch with our customer, making sure that everybody's feeling okay. And then we do walkthroughs at the end with the customer. We collect the check, we get the 5-star review, and then we repeat as many times as we can. That's our business model.
So where did you get the ideas for Footprint Floors? And by the way, I love what you guys are doing in terms of I like that, the chaperone between the homeowner and the crews. A lot of I coach and train dealers to have their crews be up to a certain level in terms of customer service, but when they're contractors, you're sometimes a little limited. And so I like what you're doing there. Where did you get the idea for Footprints Floors? You started off as an installer and doing the physical work yourself. How did it grow into this?
Yeah, when I was with that company, the previous company, they had moved me into kind of a sales role, and then I was a general manager all within a few years of being there. And then 2008 hit, and they stopped paying everybody because they made some really poor financial and business decisions. So I went 6 or 7 months in 2008 without getting a paycheck. I was a W-2 employee living on credit cards for 7 months.
Wow.
We were months behind paying our crews, months and months behind paying our employees. And I was the last of the list because I was the leader and I was going down with the ship kind of thing. In November of 2008, the two owners sat me down at an Arby's of all places and let me go. And they owed me like $40,000 in back pay. They owed the IRS $1 million in taxes. So they were in a bad spot. So November of 2008, I got let go, and I had a 2-year-old. My wife was 8 months pregnant, 800 square foot house, $40,000 or $50,000 in credit card debt, upside down equity in my house, like bad spot. And all I had was my 2 hands that could sand and finish floors. So I started Footprints in December of 2008, and we went 2 months without doing a project. I walked neighborhoods, putting flyers on doors in December and January in Colorado. That's cold. We were moving fast, so we weren't too cold, but it was, trying to drum up business. We were scrappy. And when I say we, it was me and my father-in-law walking neighborhoods, and he was doing it for free, like as trying to help his daughter and his son-in-law get this business off the ground. But then really in February, March, April of 2009, business started to pick up. I started doing some projects, turning revenue into marketing. I ended up doing the floors myself for the next few years. I was doing a project every week, but really by May of 2009, so in only the first few months, I had enough business going where I could keep myself busy, and I could have 3, 4, and 5 other crews doing other job sites all at the same time. And so I had 5 or 6 jobs happening, and I would get my project going with my helper, and then I'd go check on my other jobs. I'd go do sales in the evenings. I was working 6.5 days a week trying to keep it all moving, and we made a lot of money, and it worked. So to answer that was my very long lead up to answering your question, which is, where did this come from? I had zero intention of franchising. I still didn't for another like 6 or 7 years in this story. And really I ran my business a lot like what a lot of contractors do. They talk about running vans. We didn't have physical vans, but I ran crews, and it got to a point that really the math behind my business and most contractors is a 50-50 split with your crew. And so the math was, if I do this project myself, I'll get 100% of the money. But if I have 2 job sites going at the same time and I split it 50-50 with both crews, I make the same money. This is amazing. And I work less, and I can actually have more crews going at the same time. So if I'm running 6 job sites and I'm taking half the money from each job site, then I'm making 3 times more money than I would have had I been doing the work myself. And that's really what created Footprints Floors, was that right there. And so we scaled from 5 crews to 50 crews over the next 8, 9, 10 years. And it just worked. We know how to market, we know how to sell, we know how to manage crews, and it was just this really pretty, beautiful business in a box that makes a lot of money. And that's what led to franchising, which started in 2019, which was like year 12 of our business. 09 tonight, so year 10 of our business.
Wow.
So when I think about this, and whenever we talk, I know, so integrity comes to mind, right? I know that's a pillar, but resiliency also, right? I mean, you start this business in a financial crisis, but you guys grow to 80 franchises in 160 territories in a relatively short time, after starting in a crisis and also going through a global pandemic. So you guys have been hit twice by crazy world events, and yet you guys grow throughout them. What do you attribute the growth to despite the hardship?
Well, part of it's flooring's in demand, but I think a big part of it is we're very, very flexible. We don't have brick and mortar. I don't have a location that I need to pay for. Most of our franchises don't even have employees. It's them and subcontractors. And so that means we can ebb and flow with the market extremely easy, because we don't have any fixed expenses. We don't have any step expenses that we're worried about. And so it's just, they're all variables. We just go up and down. Our biggest expenses is buying material and paying crews. But if we don't have any work happening, then we're not paying for those 2 big expenses. That allows us to be very flexible. What also has allowed us to be flexible is because we don't have locations, we can take, I don't know what it is on the line item, percentage speaking, for most retailers, but it's probably a significant line item, their location. We take that number and put it all into marketing instead. And so that's now leading to other jobs. The metric I've always used is $100 estimates. That's what we want. So I'm going, if I've got $1,000, that's 10 homes that I can be in. If I've got $10,000, that's 100 homes that I can be in a given month. So it's really just taking rent and putting it into marketing and buying opportunities to be in houses and then selling.
Yeah, so I think that for me, something that's super cool that I was thinking about, and your colleague, I was talking to your colleague Jeremy when we were putting this together and thinking about what we can talk about here. And one of the comments he made was that Bryan structured a company that can withstand hardships. Was that by design? Did you have that in mind when you were creating the company?
It wasn't an anticipation of this pandemic
Right,
that we all predicted in 2010. No, it was, I saw those two business owners that ran the company that I worked for prior to Footprints make bad decision after bad decision. And a lot of it was kind of pride based. So it was like, oh, we need to get a cool warehouse so we look cool. And oh, we need to get big fancy trucks and big fancy vans for everybody so we look cool. And they both drove around in Mercedes and they didn't actually work. They just showed up like an hour a week and yelled at people, and then they went home and who knows what they were doing. And so I saw a lot of poor decisions on how to lead a company from those guys. And I was making decisions. And then as I launched Footprints, I'm going, I'm never going to get into anything that I can't get back out of. So I'm not going to get into leases. I'm not going to get into, expensive vehicles. I'm not going to do any of it because I can't back out, because who knows when the economy is going to crash again. And then I'm also going to be the first in and last out. I'm going to work harder than everybody. And I still don't, to this day, even as big as we are, I don't own a Mercedes. I drive a 4Runner that I bought 13 years ago, and it's still going strong, and I'm going to drive that thing till it dies. And so it's making decisions that don't put you in a bad spot in anticipation of an economy crashing. And I think that's maybe at the core, one of the core pieces of Footprints Floors is we're very nimble. Even to this day, I have one location that we have, and it's 800 square feet and $1,100 a month. That's it. That's the only location we have, and we're a huge company.
That's fantastic.
What triggers the decision to start franchising? Why do you decide you're going to go beyond just Colorado? You built this amazing business there. What was it that made you want to go further?
My dislike for workers' comp. That was pretty much it. So I got into flooring because of puppies, and I got into franchising because of workers' comp. 2012, 13. I kind of talked about it before, but I'll build on it some more. My business model way back then, and still to this day, is I want to have the owners in front of the customers. And the reason for that is the owner is who cares the most about the customer. They're probably also the most talented person in the business from a communication and organization standpoint. And that really, ideally, that person is the face of the business. That's who's interacting with your customer, building a customer base, building a brand. And so I was facing a dilemma back in 2012. I was the face of the business. I was doing all of the sales. I was everything, but I was also working like a maniac driving around Denver, and it wasn't sustainable. So I had a decision to make. Do I just start telling people on the north side of town, like, sorry, I'm not going to come see you. You live too far away? Do I start hiring employees and sending them to represent me, which I wasn't a big fan of, going back to me being the face of the business? Or I had this idea, what if I split the city in half, and I approached one of my talented crews and said, hey man, estimates on the north side of town, why don't you go see those customers, you sell the job, and then you execute the job, you manage the crew, you do it, you're the face of that business on the north side of Denver from beginning to end. They don't even know I exist, it's all you, and then I'll take the south side. And he goes, okay, let's do it. And so that was really the beginning of franchising, and I didn't even know I was doing it, was splitting Denver in half. We had a fantastic year. It went great. I went to file taxes at the end of the year. My accountant said, we're running an illegal business. And so she's like, you either need to make him an employee, W-2, or it kind of looks like you're running a franchise. He's sending you back a percentage of money. You're providing a service. You're answering the phones and doing all the marketing for him. It kind of looks like a franchise. And so I don't know what that is. Let me look into it. And so I researched and found a lawyer and started pursuing the whole franchise model. And the rest is history.
I got to ask selfishly, because you've already called me out once for being Canadian on this call, but any plans on making your way?
Your accent, don't worry.
Any plans of making your way up on this side of the border?
There is plans. Maps have been drawn. Canada might be in play at some point, but Canada's got their own fun laws around contracting, so we're trying to figure that out right now.
Right on. Awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about the installation crisis. It's a huge topic in this industry, and it's why we brought you on, Bryan. I'd like to get your perspective on the installation crisis. What are your thoughts on it, and where do you think it's going?
I have seen definitely a trend of talented individuals both leave the industry, and then talented people not wanting to come into the industry. So that's definitely a thing. My perspective, and this might be a little different from the average perspective, and part of this, I sit on the board with the NWFA. So our directive is really to grow the flooring industry, specifically the hardwood side. And so I have access to a lot of information. I see a lot of reports. I'm around a lot of knowledgeable people. So I see it all. I'm also very involved on the NTCA side and the tile side as well, from the contracting side. But also just, we're in 160 markets. We're looking for crews everywhere. We're in the business, like that's a core function of my business, is finding and managing crews. It's what we do. It's like literally what we do. And what I've learned, and this might be a little different, is, and why we have been so successful, is if you're looking for the A+ crew that can manage themselves and do all of the functions of crew, your pool to draw from is extremely small. If you're looking for guys, we call them autopilot guys, that you just give them a work order and they bring you back a check a week later and you never heard anything from the customer and they're thrilled, good luck, because there's like a handful of those in each market. Where we have been successful is we've built our pool, and it's significantly larger what we can draw from our crews, because we call them C+, B- crews. These guys on their own are not ideal, and we manage them to A's. And so what we're looking for with our crews, we're not looking for the guy that's fully functional, that can run bank accounts and advertise himself. We're looking for the guy that there's something missing. There's just, maybe he can't wake up in the morning. Maybe he can't run his bank account. Usually it's a language barrier. He doesn't speak good enough English to go find his own jobs and run his own company, but he knows floors and he knows how to work hard. He knows how to show up. And that's who we're looking for. So the combination of that guy and his hands and his back and our brains essentially managing job sites makes for an A+ crew, and makes for a very successful process for our customers. So I mean, that's really my 2 cents on the maybe head count wise. There's probably just as many installers out there as there's ever been. There's just, it's coming from a different place, and it requires a different kind of management than maybe we're used to way back when. But I mean, I've been in this industry since 2004, and I feel like crews back in 2004 look a lot like crews in 2023. I haven't seen much of a difference in the last 20 years. They're creative in the ways they mess up. And we're constantly trying to figure out how to put them in successful boxes so they don't break out and mess up. And they outsmart us sometimes, but we put them back in.
I know friends with the owners of a I'm friends with lots of retailers, but one in particular, and I go, so how do you guys find good installation crews? We pray them in.
We pray. Good way to say it.
Oh man. So I think you kind of answered my next question, but maybe you can expand on it a little bit. My question was going to be, how have you tackled finding exceptional talent in a market where it's tough to find anyone? And you just answered the exceptional part. You're not looking for that top 5%. You're dealing with the middle 80%. So how do you go about finding those people in, in any given market?
We have a. Oh, sorry, my
I'm not
Siri.
sure I understand.
My Siri decided to talk to me. We advertise to when we're launching a new franchise in a new market. We start out on different marketing sources and platforms, Craigslist and Google Marketplace. We talk to local vendors. There's drumming up names that way. But really, within less than a year of launching in a market, we generally start just getting referrals. That's where we find a lot of our crews. We oftentimes will take most of our crews, 98% of our crews are 2 people. There's a lead and a helper. And oftentimes we're spinning the helpers off into leads, and we help them get equipment, help them get a van, teach them what insurance and taxes even are. Oftentimes those are concepts that they don't know about. Like, yeah, the government wants their share. It's this weird thing. So we're educating and building them up, and then we spin them off and they become another crew. That's often what happens. And we have, and I think we do a fantastic job of retaining crews, and it has everything to do with just treating them with respect and paying them on time and having lots of work. So if they love that we're at the job sites, customers love that we're there every day, but so do the crews, because we're there taking their least favorite part of the job away from them, which is the talking customer. They're like, just let me put my headphones on and work. And that's exactly what we want them to do. We encourage them not to talk to our customers. Please don't talk to them. Let us talk to them, and we'll let you know what decisions are made. We do the walkthrough at the end. We collect the check and they get paid. It's a pretty good little system. So they love working for us.
So you have this interesting distinction between the crew and maybe the franchisee, right? The operator. And when we've spoken in the past, you have some pretty cool philosophies around what makes a good and maybe who makes a good a franchisee. I think at one point when we spoke, you said it's having experience in the flooring industry isn't even mandatory. Can you speak more about the philosophy behind who makes that good franchisee in your eyes?
Yeah, that's a similar question that the NWFA is always fascinated in asking me. Kind of the people sitting at the top of the industry is not where are you finding crews that do the work, but where are you finding the kind of the white collar talent, because that seems to be a glut, a hole into the industry as well. And we've done a good job. That's our franchisees. Of our 80-something franchisees, I want to say less than 5 have any kind of construction background at all.
Wow.
And like 3 of them have flooring backgrounds. So these are primarily white collar, middle-aged men and women that are wanting to leave the corporate America world and start their own business and do something and make a name for themselves and make more money, be in control of their schedule, be their own boss. They want to be business owners, and they're just looking for a good opportunity. And we have the numbers to defend and substantiate our business model, and they can make some very good money doing it. But they just have to be introduced to it. They hear about who we are, and then they jump on board. And then we spend months and months training them. We spend years and years mentoring and coaching and teaching them about the flooring industry. But I think you had said for me not to rag too much on floor guys, but I'm going to just have this one joke in there because I think it's good. Sorry. I've said often that it's really hard for me to teach floor guys how to be adults, but I can teach adults how to be floor guys. So I can teach people in a couple months about flooring, but it's sure hard to teach somebody that doesn't know how to wake up or answer phones or call people back how to start doing that in their 40s. It's too late.
Yeah. Interesting. So how do you get somebody who's never been in the industry ramped up in such a short amount of time?
We developed a one-of-a-kind university. It's all online testing and education. It's all information created and supplied to us by the NWFA and the NTCA. It takes them about 60 hours to go through that. So they do all of that before they then come to our in-person training in Denver that we host here for 2 weeks. I happen to be right in the middle of a training with new franchisees. Today's my day off from training, but we have about a dozen trainers that come in and teach these guys everything there is to know. A lot of it's our business mechanisms. So it's our systems, how to sell, how to market, but then we teach them all about flooring. We fly in a flooring expert, a guy by the name of John Namba. He's pretty well known in the flooring industry for 3 days to do hands-on training. And these guys get to feel sanding floors and installing and setting tile and all of it. They get to see it all, and they come away going, oh my gosh, this is really hard. I don't ever want to install a floor myself. I'm very thankful for my crews. But yeah, so we do that. And then it's just weekly and monthly and quarterly coaching forever after their hands-on training.
Yeah, and I've been to your member conferences now, and it's a community. Like, this is a family, and they want to be there. They don't feel like they have to be there for a check-in. They share ideas, and I was in Chandler, at least I was taken aback by how much how excited everyone was to see each other and catch up. And I thought that was a super cool experience for a bunch of people who belong to the same franchise. I thought that was really noteworthy. It definitely stuck out to me.
We're not competitors of each other because the system that we've set up, they have unique territories and they can't overlap. So they're not competing against one another. They're actually out for one another and coaching and encouraging. And the better your neighbor does, the better your overall business is. So it's worked well.
Yeah, and you said that maybe less than 5 had the experience in the flooring industry, and that it's a lot easier maybe to train someone who doesn't have any preconceived notions or any bad habits that they've brought with them. And Jeremy made this interesting point when him and I were speaking, that at least it sounds like you guys have found that folks who come from outside the industry can be successful for completely unexpected reasons. Things like challenging the status quo, willing to try new things. Are there kind of specific stories that kind of come to mind about times where you guys have been surprised by that, or people have brought completely new ideas to the table that you just never would have thought of?
Oh, probably create a list of 20 things, but we have a very eclectic background of skills. Yeah. Everything you could name, people have seen it. And so it's great to bring it all in, different opinions, different regions and markets around the country. Maybe that's one thing to focus on, would be the fact that we're in so many markets and we run into so many secondary and tertiary companies and ideas and things that they're doing in this market that this market has never even heard of, that we can pull from here and move to here. There's a lot of really cool stuff. And when you're a contractor across the country, I think we're the only one. We're the only one that I know of that's in as many markets and states that we're in. So we're able to draw from all over. Like an easy example is the state of Georgia hasn't heard that water-based finish was invented in 1992. And so they're all still oil-based finish for some reason. So here we come in and we're like, hey, we have this finish that dries faster. It's this amazing stuff. And like, we're taking over the Georgia market with water-based finish because nobody else had introduced it for some reason. There's just a lot of that stuff all over. Gluing down solid wood. We do it all the time, but it's a very unique thing in a lot of markets. People haven't heard about it, especially smaller markets. When we're in smaller markets, our knowledge base as a national company going into a small market that has just done the same thing for the last 50 years, it's huge. It's a huge advantage for us as a business to come in. Not only on the flooring contractor side, but marketing techniques and sales techniques. It's just, yeah. So maybe that's my answer. Yeah.
Look, your franchisees, they're operators, and obviously you treat them how to be great operators, or train them, I should say, on how to be great operators. Can you kind of share at a high level what your training entails around helping them to be the best operators possible.
Yeah. I missed a very easy plug just now, though. We found this company called Roomvo that's amazing. And the average contractor can't afford or have them in their market. But here we are with Roomvo. They're fantastic. And it's been a great tool for us overall from a sales standpoint. So thank you, Roomvo. Okay, sorry, we'll go back.
I didn't pay anyone to say any plugs about Roomvo today. I want that to be very clear for everyone listening. I just want that out there, but thank you.
That was too easy. That was a beach ball. Okay, so high level, what do we train on? You know, up front, our new franchisees, they want to get into the nitty-gritty details, and that tends to be where they focus. And so it's, what is a baseboard? What size nail do I need here? You know, all of the different rules, ins and outs of flooring. But they get through that stuff pretty quickly. Within a few months, they'll have 90% of it down, and then they'll spend the rest of their life filling in the last 10%. But really where we tend to focus big picture wise, high level on our training is how to be an entrepreneur and how to be a business owner, and that way it's how to build a brand, how to manage customers and crews, but really how to manage themselves and their own emotions. We've had some franchisees fail that they quit. And 100% of the reason they quit is they just can't handle the emotions of being a business owner and the emotions of being a contractor. Customers can be difficult, crews can be difficult, and we're in the middle playing chaperone, and it can really wear on people. So we spend a lot of time on just emotional health, and how to have proper views, how to have proper perspective. When you're running a business, if you're in the trenches constantly thinking about today, I call it looking at your feet, worrying about what's right in front of you. We as mentors are telling them, you need to look up, you need to look down the road, and the pain of today just fades away. Okay, you got to give that lady $300 and buy her off, and you live to fight another day. It's $300. 3 months from now, you won't even remember you did it. And you're moving along, but you slept like a baby. And that's what's important. This is a marathon, not a sprint. So there's a lot of kind of pushing into coaching them in that direction, and really just how to manage a business in a healthy way, how to manage their time, how to be efficient and effective with what they're doing each day. We ask them to give us how they spend their hours each day, and so we can help them cut off things that are wastes of time. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you not doing it? Like, why are you delivering wood yourself? That's a poor use of your time. You could have done 2 more estimates in that 2 hours. Plus you're absorbing the liability. You just need to pay the vendor the $60 to have that wood delivered. And like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that. Like, yeah, okay. So there's a million of those examples, but
On that perspective of taking maybe a longer horizon with your thinking, I was curious to get your thoughts on the future, specifically things like the home improvement industry over the next few years. I'm curious what your outlook is like. You kind of have operations across the whole nation, so I'm wondering if you are what your perspective is, and if it changes on sort of a region basis.
I think that there's going to be a higher and higher emphasis on companies that learn how to be adaptable. And that's pretty much been since the beginning of time. Businesses come and go, and those that adapt survive. I think there's definitely a trend towards e-commerce. We've seen that for a while. So as retailers figuring out how to get into that, consumers are getting lazier and lazier. And they want to buy everything on their phones instead of driving in somewhere. I think there'll always be a need for showrooms, but I think there's going to be a need to really diversify how customers find you, and living and dying on physical locations versus pushing into electronic marketing, I think is something that it would suit business as well. But really figuring out how to navigate the industry overall. I mean, we've seen some huge players come in right in the last decade. You got the Floor and Decors, you had the ebb and flow of Lumber Liquidators and LL Flooring. There's regional players all over the place that are playing the game, and it's figuring out how to adapt with those guys coming into your market. They're buying direct. what do you do? You know, they're undercutting prices. So how do you adapt to that? We had our way of adapting. We just chose not to compete with them. Actually, there was one of the original Floor and Decors was down the street from me when I started my business 15 years ago, and customers were buying tile for $1 a foot. And I'm going to do estimates, and I'm like, I can't compete with $1 a foot. And I just tell customers, you should just go buy your own stuff, and then let me know when you bought it, and then I'll come put it in for you. And that was part of our inception as a business, was adapting to that competition in our market. But I think there's going to be some pretty major shifts over the coming years and decades. Supply lines, logistics, distribution, manufacturing, direct manufacturing to consumer, direct to contractors. That's I think going to be in play over the coming years. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about at the high levels as well.
On the installer side of things, you know, you made this point that installer crews 10 years ago don't look that much different, in your opinion, than the crews of today. Do you have a perspective of where that's going, or do you see that staying the same? Where do you kind of net out there?
Well, I hope, you know, my mission for Footprints Floors, a big picture, big M mission for Footprints Floors, is to continue to instill professionalism in an industry that's lacking it. I'm very passionate about teaching people standards. We teach our crew standards. We bring in crews that have been doing it the same way for the last 25 years, but they've been doing it wrong for the last 25 years, and really reorienting them in the right direction, teaching them how instructions work and reading instructions and following instructions. There's a specific trowel to use for a reason. That's what the scientists and engineers recommend that we use. So maybe we should use that, and really continuing to push into that and making a professional workforce. That's a huge kind of byproduct of Footprints Floors and our model overall, but it's something I'm pushing into. We're a main sponsor of the NWFA training program for this very reason, that we want to make sure that standards get in front of crews, and so that at the end of the day, the industry as a whole is healthier. Our bad rap as contractors fades. There's a reason we have a bad rap, because there's a lot of bad installers out there, but also the end product for the consumer is better and better. That's my goal. And so, to answer your question, I really hope we have an influence. I really hope that we see a stronger professional workforce over the coming years. And that's my goal and a passion of mine.
In the last 10 minutes here, the last few minutes, I should say, you know, the Q&A section is open. If anyone has questions for Bryan, you can ask them there, and Jim and I can read them off. Bryan, while I let those go in, I guess the last couple of questions I have, you know, you've alluded to your role on the NWFA a couple of times now. Maybe you could just elaborate a little bit more about what your specific role is there, and maybe if there's any way retailers here can help out with the mandate, anything that you wanted to share on that front.
I strongly encourage everyone to be a member of these professional organizations. If you sell wood, you should be part of the NWFA. Same with the NTCA. I think they're fantastic organizations. They have an amazing library of information and resources, troubleshoot hotlines, access to installers and inspectors. I'm hoping that pretty much everybody on here's heard about and is involved somehow with the NWFA, but I strongly encourage it. And it's a nonprofit organization whose whole directive is to promote the flooring industry. I mean, and we're all in the flooring industry. I think that's a pretty cool thing to be part of. My specific role is on the board. So there's a handful of us that make decisions. I represent the contractor arm. So the NWFA's in their bylaws, we have to have representatives for distribution, manufacturing, and also contractors. And I'm the contractor arm of the board. I'm trying to give a unique perspective. You know, I might be the first board member to be in multiple locations as a contractor. A lot of the board members in the past have been like the uber fantastic technician like craftsman man. He's the flooring guru artist guy, and he has his perspective. And I'm a business owner. I'm a contractor. I love running a business, and I'm mentoring and coaching and growing. I'm not necessarily the guy that's going to go whittle a dragon in your hardwood floors. Those guys are awesome, but they have a different opinion on what the industry should look like than I do. And so I'm trying to bring that unique perspective to the overall structure.
Awesome. I'm looking at the Q&A box here. We got quite a few. I'll try to get through them, as many as I can here. Corinne asked, do you train differently for crews that work out of rural areas? Obviously, you're based in Denver. Do you have ideas for, or do you guys have tweaked the program for folks in rural areas?
No, we train them and we find them the same way. I've noticed that in larger metros, we get a lot more responses to our posts looking for crews than we do in the more rural areas. But that just, all that really does at the end of the day, and economics 101, is it drives the cost down for the crew. So our crews in large markets are cheaper than they are in the small markets, because there's just fewer to choose from, supply and demand. But as far as managing them goes, it's the same. People are people. They want to be managed. They want to have work, and they want to make money. And we've seen that play out in small markets the same way as large.
Awesome. Elise asked, are you willing to share any marketing tips that you've seen work? Maybe don't share any of the secret sauce, but are there anything, any concrete examples that you had that you wanted to share with the team here, or with the viewers here about what's
Elise, what market are you in? If you're in Canada, I'll tell you everything.
No, I think Elise is in Arizona.
No, yeah. I'll give you high level. We used to spend a small fortune on print marketing. That's really faded over the years. So we don't get too much into print marketing now. It's mostly electronic, online stuff. I'll give you an overall philosophy on marketing. There's a lot of companies out there, a lot of especially contractors that brag about being a referral only business. Oh, I don't have to market. I'm way too good for that. I'm a referral based business. And that's great. And that works for some people. But what I have found by marketing, we're buying estimates, we're buying opportunities for X number of dollars, and we're getting into homes. But what that is really doing is I'm creating a base of customers when I buy them that leads to referrals and leads to previous customers. So I'm not living and dying on word of mouth. I'm generating business through marketing that leads to word of mouth. And I promise you, we get way more referrals and previous customers because we market than the average flooring company. The more customers you have, the more referrals you're going to get. It's pretty one-to-one basic information. We've grown to a place where nearly 50% of our business now, from a revenue standpoint, is referrals and previous customers, which are free. The other half is buying those leads, but we wouldn't have the free side if it wasn't for all the buying side. So market. I'm a big fan of marketing.
Very cool. We're getting some questions about maybe the services you offer. So someone here mentioned that they were on your website and they noticed that you offer virtual estimates, wondering how your crews go about doing these.
That was a response to COVID. We needed to figure out how to get into people's houses when they wouldn't let us in their houses. So we developed a whole system during COVID to do that. That's faded. I bet we only do a couple virtual ones here and there. For the most part, we do like to be in houses. But to answer your question, we were teaching customers how to use tape measures over videos. And then walking around a house on video and on their phone for an hour while they tried to learn how measurements work. And then we were doing math and we tell them a number. Yep.
Right on. On the notion of measuring, do your crews do the measurement? Do they specify the quantities needed, or is the assumption that the product's already been purchased in the correct quantities and you're there to install?
Our crews have nothing to do with our sales process.
Okay.
They do not meet the customer until the job starts.
Okay.
Our franchisees, our owners, are who do the estimates. They sell the project, they collect the deposit check, they create the work order that they then issue to the sub, and then they go meet the sub there on day one to get the project off and going, and then they execute the job from there. So it's our franchisees that are doing the estimates. it's a mix. It's 50-50. Sometimes they already have product purchased. Oftentimes they know nothing and have nothing. So we're giving them a shopping list and we're telling them where to go. Go see Susan at such and such a store. You need to buy 550 square feet. We'll be here in 2 weeks to put it in.
Cool.
Hey, here's an interesting question, Bryan. What are your, and we probably won't have time for too many more, but this person's anonymous and they say, interesting story and good for you on the success of your company. What are your thoughts on whether it makes sense for flooring stores to have a franchise, or do you find it works better to work with your company in a market? So there's kind of like two options he's presenting. Would it be a good idea for a flooring store owner to become a franchisee? And as the other alternative, working with a franchisee, I guess, that already exists in their market.
Obviously I'm biased and I'm a big fan of both ideas. But yeah, we would encourage that. I think that's a great fit. The reason to be a franchisee is then you're the one capturing the profit from the installations, and it's quite profitable. But there is some headaches and changes and learning that comes with that, and it would be easier, especially up front, to simply hand off the work, but you're handing off the profit in the process to a local franchisee. But either way, I think it's a great solution. Our franchisees work very well with showrooms. It's what we do. It's a great symbiotic relationship. We don't have products, so we're trying to figure out where to send our customers, and you guys don't really want to do the installs. You're trying to figure out how to get the installs off your plate, and so we're two halves of the same coin. So
maybe if they're, because it is a franchise, you're not going to have 8 franchisees in a small town. If there is no franchisee already in their area, maybe that's an opportunity for them to look into, and at the same time, not only solve their own installation shortage issues, but also have another, branch of their business, so to speak, that could also service, because it's called Footprints Floors, I'm assuming, in all the markets.
Yep.
So if you have Jimbo's Floors, but over here you own Footprints Floors franchise, you could be serving all the retailers in your area for am I missing anything here, Bryan?
I think the huge opportunity in that, along that vein too, is we're very good at marketing. We know how to get the phone to ring. We know how to get into people's houses, to the tune of like 54,000 estimates last year. So those customers are looking for product and they don't know where to go. So it's going to generate business back to the showroom at the same time. So you're finding customers from two different directions.
Very cool. In the last minute here, I'm going to ask a question that a couple of retailers actually asked in this call. So first of all, Footprints Floors locations will absolutely work with mom and pop shops. And that is our customer base, especially on this call. So if there are retailers here who are listening in that want to work with your franchisees, what's the best way to get started? Can I connect them to you? Is there someone somewhere they should go? What's the best next step?
Probably the best way to go is just go to our website, footprintsfloors.com. And there's just one click and you get to a map of all of our locations around the country. So there's 160 something on there, and just make sure we service your area. We have unique phone numbers for each location that go to a specific receptionist. Essentially, we actually I'm the franchisor. We actually answer all of the phones for our franchisees. So you're going to end up talking to one of my employees when you call. Yeah. And you just talk to them about what you're looking at doing, and they'll connect you with the right franchisee and get you off and going. It's pretty easy.
Awesome. You can also email myself or your Roomvo rep, and we can help you out with that too. So that way we can get you in touch with their team. But on that note, I just wanted to thank everyone who took some time today.
I want to answer Elisa's question.
Okay.
So she says, there was a Footprints Floors that went out of business in Scottsdale. What do you do about reestablishing that? Would love to discuss it with you if possible. we didn't actually go out of business in Scottsdale. The Mesa Chandler owner bought that location. He set the records last year for one of our best franchisees. So he's amazing. He bought the Scottsdale location. So he's now expanded into a third territory. But there is opportunity on the north side of Arizona if you're interested in that.
There you go. Well, I can get Elise in touch with you too.
North side
On
of Phoenix, not Arizona. You don't want to be on the north side of Arizona. Phoenix. There we go.
Awesome. Okay, folks. Well, first of all, thank you for everyone who joined today. I really appreciate you guys continuously supporting us and taking the time. Thank you to our fearless co-host, Jim, but most of all, thank you, Bryan. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to speak with us, especially after being off for 2 months. I know that this has been a crazy week. So thank you all around, and we'll chat soon.
Well, and I'll throw this out there, and this might be a little dangerous for me to say, but if anybody has any questions, they want to talk to me for any reason at all, just pick my brain, hear about the NWFA, hear about Footprints Floors, hear about crews, feel free to email me. It's just my name, bpark@footprintsfloors.com. I'm happy to answer and share knowledge. I got a lot of knowledge. I'm happy to share it. I'll give it freely. So
awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Bye, everyone.